Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It's Season 2, Episode 45, the second half outlook for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am still sick, definitely, if you can hear it in my voice. Austin, it's the second half of the season's upon us, and we just started with a Thursday night game in Week 10. Season, is it over for the Cardinals?
I think so. They're in the division with the Rams and the Seahawks. The Seahawks are not even guaranteed to make the playoffs, so you gotta think it's over for the Cardinals here.
So let's talk about that game. The Seahawks winners, what was it, 22-16?
Correct. The Seahawks won 22-16. Don't get confused. The score at the end, Andre Ellington got a garbage time touchdown at the end with the extra point being blocked by Jeremy Lane. And then Russell Wilson was fantastic in this. He threw for two touchdowns, 238 yards. And
how about that acrobatic play?
Oh, yeah. There's an acrobatic play to Doug Baldwin where he just kept rolling out of the pocket and extending the play until he finally turned around. Then Doug Baldwin made an amazing play by jumping up in front of the defender and then ran for 54 yards. It was incredible by the Seahawks. Not really iced the games for them. As for everyone else, Thomas Rawls didn't have that great of a day. He had his longest run of the season at 23, but he had 10 rushes for 27 yards, with his longest being 23. So he had 9 rushes for 4 yards.
Big loss for the Seahawks, though. What's the one we're all talking about?
They lost Richard Sherman, and they also lost several people tonight. Let's be honest here. They might have lost Dwayne Brown. They might have lost C.J. Procise. Frank Clark and their other defensive end went down. Why his name is escaping me? Do you know who I'm talking about by any chance?
Michael Bennett?
No, not Mike. Oh, Sheldon Richardson.
Sheldon Richardson
just returned.
Wow.
And he's from the Jets, obviously. That's why I couldn't think of him. I was confused. I was like, who is it? Yeah, Sheldon Richardson and Frank Clark collided and went down. And then, yeah, so they're not doing good on the injury side. Also, Jimmy Graham had an amazing day. 6 catches, 2 touchdowns. Pretty good. Drew Stanton did pretty well as well on the other side. He threw a lot because Adrian Peterson was doing awful. 21 attempts for 29 yards. Absolutely hideous. Larry Fitzgerald, awesome stat line. He had 10 receptions for 113 yards. And that's pretty much it for the game. The only thing that I have to add, I've had the Cardinals plus 6.5 points, so I got that right, and John had the Seahawks covering, and Seahawks just didn't cover because of a garbage time touchdown, so I'll take it. And then before we do anything else, I just want to remind you guys, we got a giveaway. I mentioned in the last one. Ben Roethlisberger Funko Pop, pin tweet. It's on all our social media. Go to gleam.io and search Stronger Than Steel, Ben Roethlisberger Funko Pop giveaway. Go into there. It's really easy. I won't tell you all about it there, but just go look at it. You'll see all the entries. Would you like to take over from here?
Sure. Just get ready to expect to see that for all of our episodes now. So if you haven't done anything to try to get this Funko Pop, you might as well do something about it, okay? Make sure you do it. So let's just jump right into it. Steelers are 6-2, Austin. First place in the AFC North and the AFC. They got a pretty easy second half schedule, apparently, but let's address and answer some questions first. So, the injury bug. We just talked about it with the Seahawks. A Thursday night game. The Steelers have one coming up after this week against the Titans. Are the Steelers going to be able to continue avoiding the injury bug? Can we expect guys like Marcus Gilbert, Stephon Tuitt, Mike Mitchell, all guys currently injured or formerly injured, to return at full strength this season?
I'm looking at the Bengals game, and I'm getting scared for it. I can't help but think the Bengals, who have nothing to play for this season, will just play to hurt players. Obviously, that's not why they play football, and it's not all the Bengals, of course, but I'm looking at Vontaze, who has already hurt each of the Killer Bees at some point. That's a scary game. I'm looking at it, and I have bad feeling in my chest that something bad is going to happen in that game specifically. But it would be amazing for the injury bug to stay away from the Steelers. As honestly, to step away from the Steelers for a second, the Steelers are probably the luckiest team in the league right now. If not, like, we've lost no one for the season. We had that scare with Tuitt in game 1, but he came back and he was fine, and that was good news. But other teams have lost stars. They've lost the person that defines their team. Aaron Rodgers is gone for the Packers. Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, as we talked about in the last podcast, are gone for the Texans. Odell Beckham Jr. is gone for the Giants. It's just
and now Richard Sherman. Now Richard Sherman too.
And now Richard Sherman is added. So many teams have lost a star of their team, and to think that the Steelers haven't even lost anyone. Cameron Sutton's been one of the only players on IR, and he's never played. It's not like we lost anything. It's just we haven't had him. So the Steelers have been very lucky on that part, and only like losing Marcus Gilbert and Stephon Tuitt for a few weeks at a time. And even then, we have decent backups for those positions, so it's not like it was the worst loss ever. But sorry, I went on a little bit of a tirade there. Do you think the Steelers will be able to continue avoiding the injury bug?
It's tough to say because obviously it's kind of the luck of the draw, but they have been lucky, and you have to think at some point they're going to get bitten once or twice down the stretch here. You never really know, but I do believe Tuitt and Gilbert are going to be back to themselves this week, but Mitchell's injury might take a little more time. As far as the games I'm most concerned about, obviously the Cincinnati game is concerning to me, but I'm also worried about that Thursday night game against the Titans in a couple weeks. You don't have any time to recover or prepare for those games, so that's what's got me concerned is that Thursday night game. I'm hoping nothing serious happens there. If we can get past that, I'll feel pretty good. Probably the biggest question for the offense on the Steelers outside of Ben Roethlisberger, but this is tied in. How, or I guess conversely, how and will the Steelers' offense improve in the red zone and on third down? Because that's been their biggest problems.
I think the biggest thing here is situational play calling. Better calls need to be made for these situations specifically. Like, there needs to be more runs from inside the 5 and less throws there, which it hasn't been happening. And even when it happens, Ben Roethlisberger audibled out of one. So they're just – Bell has proven he's a monster. It's easy to say. Let's just let him try and do what he does and let him punch it in there. Then play calling as a whole really just needs to be mixed up a bit because there have been several questionable calls early on that didn't quite make sense in my eyes. Namely, I think of the Martavis Bryant screens that they just tried forcing in an entire game. And other than that, I think that should really help in the red zone on third down. Anything else, there really can't be changes made. You just got to hope that players play better. Like, Ben Roethlisberger's contributing too, but you can't really just say, all right, Ben, play better. It's just you got to work around it, and play calling is one of the things you can change, and it hasn't been that great. What do you think the Steelers will do to improve in the red zone and on third down?
Well, part of their struggles have been coming from playing good defenses. It does start with better play calling, like you said. A lot of the third down plays have been pretty predictable, going deep or a straight dive with Terrell Watson. Maybe some different calls that are of a higher percentage or doing something to fake out the defense would help a little more. Maybe like just a play action fake from Terrell Watson. And as far as execution goes, which is another issue, I think Ben Roethlisberger really misses that safety valve kind of player. And hopefully Juju can become that kind of player so he can become more comfortable in these situations. But I think another part of it might be he doesn't need to be so reliant on Antonio Brown. He's not a tall guy, and therefore you can't expect him to always be free, particularly in the end zone. Think about it. On third down, everyone knows he's going to be getting the ball thrown his way. So as it's been all season, the Steelers really need someone else to step up because they're going to be shading everyone towards Brown. So Ben can't force it there, but he needs to be able to rely on someone else. Speaking of that someone else, what should we expect to see from Martavis Bryant this year? And conversely, James Harrison, who hasn't played much in the first half.
If Harrison isn't hurt for the rest of the year, I expect him to get a little more playing time than he has, but not much more. As for Bryant, he's now the number 3 wide receiver, and maybe that will help him. Maybe, I don't know if teams are going to treat him like the number 3 wide receiver, but he is on the depth chart. I would like. I'm honestly not sure what we're going to get out of him. I would like to hope we will see him just as much as we have, but now improved going into the halfway point. Mike Tomlin said he's worked hard in the in his time and he's taken it well, but you're always going to say that if you don't want to piss off your player anymore. So we'll see. What do you expect out of Martavis Bryant and James Harrison going forward?
I think Harrison's going to be used more in situational play, but I don't expect it to be a ton. As far as Bryant goes, it's a huge question mark. He does play. Technically, they play the same position, but Juju Smith-Schuster and Martavis Bryant kind of play different positions, where Smith-Schuster is more of a slot guy. I don't know. There's no reason for me to think Roethlisberger is going to suddenly start connecting on these deep balls. Maybe he'll start connecting on them more often. Maybe some of it's just looking Bryant's way a little more. I think we'll see him play better. He has reportedly been better in practice lately. We'll see if that'll come to fruition in the coming weeks. I don't know. I feel like he's going to have to play well because if he doesn't, he's not going to be worth anything. So he's definitely going to be motivated to be better. I think he will be better. I don't know how much better he'll be. Maybe instead of 2 catches a game, he gets 4. Maybe 4 for 50. You could live with that, right?
I could live with 4 for 50. It's better than 2 for 20. I
Yep.
can tell you that.
Exactly. So maybe that's what you can expect, and you'll have to take it. What does Ben Roethlisberger have to do to improve in the second half?
He needs to stop forcing the deep ball. That's for sure. He's reminding me of Peyton Manning in his final year. I said this in the last podcast, actually. His arm just wasn't there, and unless Roethlisberger can bring it back after the half, he needs to stop forcing the deep throw. He also will just need to focus. He has missed a few open guys this year, and he's looked confused at times. He just needs to relax, take it slower, and focus for the most part because he has the time in the pocket this year. He has the offensive line to keep it clean. So just take his time, focus. What do you think he needs to do to improve in the second half?
You know, I said he doesn't extend the play much anymore, but he also doesn't climb the pocket more, which is something I think he really did well because, he'd step up a bit and then he'd really drive the ball in there. Look, there's that. He's throwing it to Brown a little more, probably than he should. Those deep balls really are a problem. Look, I don't have a problem with throwing a deep ball every now and then, but he just throws like 7 a game? Maybe throw only 3, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's not connecting.
Yeah. Maybe start with 1 game. If you keep hitting it, then maybe try it a few more times. But dial it back a little bit, and then just go through your reads as a quarterback. I mean, he's been doing it for years. Yeah, he's not a traditional read and throw kind of guy, but come on, he's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how he gets better. How else does he get better right now?
You really can't. Like, it's hard to just get better as a quarterback. They're obviously trying their hardest. It's not like Ben's like, all right, I want to lose, or I want to perform this way. Every player wants to be the best they can be. It's just if that's your best, you just really can get better from there for the most part.
I'm thinking that's what is probably the path for him to be better. I mean, there's either that or he goes back to the old Ben Roethlisberger, constantly extending the play and getting killed out there. So it's either or, and I think that the first option is probably something not only he wants, but the rest of Steeler Nation wants, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We want to see the Ben Roethlisberger of old.
Well, that's not necessarily what I mean. What I mean is he can either get better in this sense, or he can go out there and try to extend the play all the time, which is what he used to do, and he'd get killed back there. I'm saying that the fans and coaches should prefer the former rather than the latter, where they don't want him extending the play a ton. And extending the play every now and then is good, but what I mean is extending the play too much will get him hit a lot, and I don't think he can take the pounding like he could even 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah, you're correct there. I'm sorry.
No. You understood what I meant, because I think you and I both agree extending the play is something that isn't something he should be doing a lot, but it's something that he's completely abandoned this year, and that's something I still want to see every now and then. On a big third down, extending the play isn't the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, and it was something he was good at, too. People called him the magician. It was one of his nicknames, because the way he would just make things happen.
Oh, so, yeah, he was the best quarterback. I think he wasn't the first, but he was one of the first ones to ever make extending the play, you know?
that was his thing, and now it's just gone.
Yeah, so it's definitely odd. It's an odd thing to think about. So we might have more to talk about after this game as well too, because he's got a game against a team that he typically dominates though. So moving on, is this defense an elite unit, Austin? They might be somewhat untested, but then again, how many great quarterbacks are there in the NFL?
There's not that many, to be honest. And one's down. Two of them are down. Actually, I'm sorry. Watson isn't proven enough to be great as a whole, but he was playing great, so I'll count him. But anyway, it's hard for me. I was thinking about it. For me to be elite in a year, elite's a pretty high standard. I was thought of it as top 5 defense, and I'm gonna say no, and just barely no. I think we saw last game that as soon as they're put up against a good quarterback, they get darted up. Given that it's weird because as soon as they started getting darted up, they've almost shut down on the run completely, which they were getting gashed on big runs, and now we haven't seen one of those in quite a few weeks now. And just to bring it back, are they one of the best defenses in the league? Yeah, probably, but not elite in my opinion. I think they're top 10, but not top 5. They're somewhere in between that 6 to 10 region.
Is elite top 5 then, or is it like top 3, top 4?
I think elite is top 5. I think if you're in the top 5, that's good enough. And obviously, the Steelers are, in terms of stats, in the top. They're number 2. I think for total defense as of late. I'm actually going to double check that when John's talking. But
can you also check how many interceptions they have? Because that's going to relate to what I'm going to say. And I want to hope. I hope I'm not. I'm going to hope I'm not going to sound like an idiot here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll toss it over to you. What do you think this is? Defense is elite?
Not yet, and for one reason only. I don't think they force enough turnovers. They've forced turnovers at times this year, but they haven't had many games where they've been forcing a huge amount of turnovers. They've been getting their sacks. They've gotten a couple picks every now and then, but I don't believe they've had a game where they've forced 3 turnovers, have they? No, they did have one against the Ravens, I believe. Yes, they did. But I don't know. I feel like they don't force turnovers like the old Steelers defense is used to, and I think that's where the big difference is coming. We've seen the bend but don't break. We've seen them shut down the run. We've seen them shut down the pass. Yes, they haven't faced great quarterbacks much, but at the same time, I think the big difference and equalizer in that is getting turnovers, and I think the big reason they weren't able to get turnovers last week or 2 weeks ago against the Lions was because they weren't getting pressure. If they were getting pressure, I think the Steelers' pass coverage would have looked a lot better, but is this a top 10 unit? Absolutely. Is it a top 8 unit? I think so. Top 6, that's where you're getting a question mark. I think they're right on that border. I think they're 6 or 5, right around there. So I'll say no just because of the turnovers. Can you back that up, Austin, or am I going to sound like an idiot right now?
I can back it up. They're middle of the pack on interceptions. I'm because the website is stupid, it doesn't put fumbles and interceptions next to each other. But they're ranked 15th. They're tied for 15th with the Vikings and the Colts for interceptions at 7. So they're middle of the pack. They're not amazing there. They're not forcing that many. Like you said, for total defense, they're actually at number 5 now. Their passing defense is still number 2, but their what's it called? Their rushing defense is still pretty bad.
What is it at?
The rushing defense. Hold on, I apologize.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay. I understand. Thinking about the interceptions, here's the other thing to consider. 3 of them have come from linebackers, so that's almost half of them. 1 from T.J. Watt and 2 from Shazier. I believe that's all of them because Hilton had 1. What else am I missing? Does Artie Burns have a pick?
Artie Burns does not. He has a fumble recovery.
Okay. Oh, the Golden Tate drop, you mean?
Yeah. He didn't force the fumble. He recovered one.
Joe Hayden and William Gay also have picks. Am I missing? I'm missing 1 still, I believe.
Yeah, there were 7 in total. And the Steelers are ranked 19 in rush defense. So they're getting better. They're averaging 106.6 yards a game allowed. and luckily fumbles are on this page as well. For fumbles, they rank. They actually have. Oh wait, I lost them. No. Okay, continue. I'm sorry. As I try and find them.
What was that other interception? I cannot.
They ranked 9th for. They're tied for 9th with like 8 other teams. Wow. They have 4 fumbles recovered.
So that's the big difference right there, is the turnovers from keeping them an elite unit in my mind, of course.
They have 11 in total, so that they're middle of the pack from most of the league. A lot of the league has the same amount of fumbles recoveries as they do, if only like 1 less. So, I mean, it could be worse. The Eagles and Panthers don't have a fumble recovery yet. So.
Interesting. Can you do me a favor and find out who has Steelers interceptions this year? Because this is bothering me. I'm missing one. So, at the same point, I'm also going to... Let's think about this for a second. Just a minor roster thing right now, but the Steelers activated Cam Sutton from IR, so he is going to have to return to the roster, I believe, in 2 weeks from now. So the question is, who do the Steelers cut? Do the Steelers cut a cornerback, Austin? You think they cut a cornerback? They have to, right?
I think it's got to be a cornerback, and I think we differ here, but I think I'm going to go with Brian Allen. I think they tried really hard to keep him on their active team because they didn't want to lose him because he's raw, but he has the physical. He was given the physical features to be able to play cornerback really well, and he just needed some time to develop. So I don't think they wanted another team to steal him. I think they gotta just try and hope that they could bring him back to the practice squad here, and I think they're gonna get rid of him. Who do you think that they're gonna get rid of to make a spot for Cameron Sutton?
By that logic, shouldn't they cut someone different though?
I mean, I don't think there's anyone else you could really cut because cornerback is the only spot where I feel like you have players that really aren't contributing. Like it's Brian Allen's not been playing, or Cody Sensabaugh really hasn't been playing. So it's just been. I think it's the only spot you really can take someone away from.
Well, let's call it a coin flip because I have the only other person that could feasibly be cut by the Steelers, and that's Cody Sensabaugh. Look, I gotta be honest. I know they're both special teams guys, but I think there's much more upside to keeping Allen, and I don't think I've heard Sensabaugh's name at all this year. Like, I'm sure I have, but I legit forgot he was on the teams at some point. So yeah, I think he's the one to go. I thought he was gonna play a bit in the defense because he played there in the preseason, more than we thought. But yeah, no, I think he's gonna be the one to go personally. Funny how the NFL schedule works out, Austin. We all thought the Steelers' easy part of the schedule was coming in the first half, and it was actually kind of tough. And yet here we are looking at the second half, and all of a sudden, the second half looks more like a cupcake schedule now.
Yeah, injuries have really affected it and shaken up, and then also the Colts were expected to have Andrew Luck back at this point, and they don't. He's obviously on season-ending IR. But before we get into that totally, I think the interception you missed was J.J. Wilcox. Did you?
Yep, that is it. The one against the Bears. Yep.
There you go. Yep, that was the one interception you missed. Okay, but going into the games, we got the Colts, the Titans, the Packers, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Patriots, the Texans, and the Browns.
Oh, and by the way, the Steelers play this week on the road, and then they only have 2 more road games the rest of the way. So 2 of their final 7 games. So that means 5 of 7 at home. That's really good. And by the way, one of those last 2 road games comes in Cincinnati, where Ben Roethlisberger has lost, I believe, twice.
Yeah, it's not very often that it happens. But that's what's even crazier is just thinking about the quarterbacks they're facing. They're obviously facing Brissett this week, and I mean, I think I've been overrating him in my mind. I like Brissett. He's not that great though. I just like him because he's on my fantasy team, so I've been a little bit rooting for him extra. And I guess maybe that's affected my view on him because I think a lot of people have decided that he's bad. So overall, he's bad. Mariota. This will be the first time the Steelers are facing Mariota. But the Titans tend to fare well against the Steelers regardless. Then they face Hundley, who's been awful. Dalton, who's not good. Flacco, who doesn't have wide receivers and is not elite. And then Brady is basically the only other good quarterback we have here if you consider Mariota good. Then we have Tom Savage or maybe even TJ Yates if Tom Savage is just terrible. I mean, he got benched through like 3 quarters on the first game, so I wouldn't be surprised to see just TJ Yates take over. And then finally, the Browns have whoever they're starting. It might be just a guy chilling out in section 138, as John wrote. and then, so honestly...
Let's take this game by game, Austin. Let's look into each game. Let's just start with this Sunday. We'll have a more extensive preview later, but in Indy, coming off the bye, the Colts have the worst ranked defense and offense. They're 32nd ranked in one of them. I believe it's defense. And, oh boy. Ben Roethlisberger's had struggles on the road, but his last 3 games he's had, listen to this, 6 touchdowns, 0 picks, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks, plus 522 yards. I think the second game was a 400-yard game. Last year, only a measly 223 yards and 3 touchdowns. Oh, and all those games, no picks. So if there's a game for Ben Roethlisberger to right the ship, it's definitely this one. And you have to, especially without Vontae Davis now. Oh boy. Oh my goodness. This poor Colts team could be in trouble. The Steelers are, I think, 10-point favorites on the road. This could be the game where everything finally goes right. And yeah, Jacoby Brissett is probably the best Colts quarterback the Steelers have faced since they faced Luck in the 2014 matchup. It was Matt Hasselbeck in 2015, Scott Tolzien last year. But I don't think they have a chance.
They almost have no chance. The Colts rank 31st in defense, and that's just awful. And that was with Avonte Davis even being hurt. It's this stat line for Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell might be insane this game. It might be absolutely awful for the Colts. And it should be. And Juju Smith-Schuster might get involved. Like, it is really bad. And it's not even like they make it up on offense either. They rank 25th on offense. So their average as a team is like 28th overall.
Yeah, that's awful. You know what, Austin? That might not even the one thing I'm thinking of is that Brown and Bell might not even have big numbers because they might be benched by halftime because they'll be up by so much.
You're right. When we're saying this, and on the recap episode, it's like, all right, Colts 152-7. We're done here. We're done podcasting. Everything we said was wrong.
Yeah, for real though. If the Steelers lose this game, I think maybe is it the only chances that the Steelers typically struggle on the road against tough teams, but even then it's in a dome.
Exactly. This it should play no role, but yeah, as you said, this Colts team is bad, and it should be a field day for the Killer Bees.
Bringing it back, a short week, Thursday night football against the Titans. Probably the second best quarterback the Steelers are going to face coming up here, Marcus Mariota. The Titans, you're right, they do give the Steelers fits at times, but the Steelers did win the last matchup in Tennessee. Zach Mettenberger, the quarterback of that last game. The Titans are in the thick of things. I believe they're leading the division right now. The Jaguars hot on their tail, but the Texans have faded away and the Colts are garbage. So the Titans are going to probably need to win this game to maintain pace with the Jaguars. So it'll be probably the biggest game outside of the Patriots game. Don't you agree?
Yeah, the only one that really provides a threat that you could see from here. Because obviously the Steelers lose stupid ones, but it looks like almost every other one should be a win for them. And then, honestly, though, they still don't even look that crazy. They're ranked 20th on total offense. So I don't know. I feel like the Steelers are going to blow a stupid one. And I think that's going to be one of them.
Definitely could be. Thursday night games are very strange, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, Steelers hosting the Packers. That looked like the shootout game with Aaron Rodgers, but now it will be the marquee matchup of Ben Roethlisberger versus Brett Hundley. And look, I liked Hundley coming out of UCLA, but he's not an NFL quarterback.
Nope, he's so bad. He's really bad. I think he's thrown 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. It might be only 1 touchdown and 5 interceptions. He's really bad, and he's just, this whole team is going down the drain. We said it last podcast, but they also lost their right tackle, Brian Beluga, for the year now. He has no help. He has no help, and he is not good. That team is awful.
Is it fair to call the Packers an upgrade of the Colts?
Basically, they're just a slightly better Colts. They're a Colts with an offensive line better.
That's like this. That's like the only difference. They're nothing without their star quarterback.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Steelers next week at Cincinnati, where they always win, facing the Bengals. Nervous about this game, mostly for injuries. I don't think the Steelers should really have a problem losing or winning this game. The Steelers will probably have some difficulties, but they should still win it.
Yeah, Steelers should throttle them here. Nothing really to speak about. It's going to be if the Steelers just come to play or undermine this team because it's late and because they're going to be bad when they burst them the second time. But, yeah.
Next week we will be at this game. Ravens at Steelers. There's no reason for me to think the Ravens offense is going to get any better. So I think the Steelers win this one pretty handily.
Steelers should win, but it's always a tough game facing the Flaccos. The Ravens. It's just, I'm honestly almost thinking this one's going to be a loss just because usually Steelers and Ravens split, and since the Steelers throttled the Ravens the first time, I think the Ravens might just win it here, which would be disappointing. I hope not, because we're going to that game, so not good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. The last time the Steelers swept the Ravens was in 2008 when they went to the Super Bowl, so something to think about. Then the toughest game of the year against the Patriots, Tom Brady. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the Steelers have a legit chance to win this game.
I honestly have to agree here that their defense, while having improved I'm talking about the Patriots, it's still not good. It is still not good at all. They're still 32nd ranked defense, and they're giving up 417 yards a game. That's ridiculous.
And let's don't forget, this is definitely not the team that was the top scoring defense from last year either. They have a ton of turnover and injuries like Dante Hightower, like you mentioned, and he wasn't even playing well.
Yep, exactly. It's just they've been really, really bad. Their special teams is not good. We talked about that last year, how actually that was like where the Steelers had an advantage because their special teams was better. And then Tom Brady's still playing amazing. They're still the number one offense, but there's nothing they can do about their defense. They added Martellus Bennett, but when you're already the number one offense, how much does that really help? You need to improve the other side of the ball. Obviously, there's nothing they really can do. The trade deadline's gone. There's not anyone that's sitting on waivers right now isn't good. It's not going to take a good spot. But
obviously, if the Steelers run the ball and keep Brady off the field, they should be able to win that game.
Honestly, yeah, it's going to be all about how if the offense can keep up with the Patriots' offense, and the Steelers have the better defense here. It might be finally time the Steelers pick off Tom Brady after it's been this long without an interception.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, there's a chance outside of the coach and quarterback advantage going to New England, I can't really think of many places. Yeah, tight end too. I can't think of many places where the Patriots hold a strong advantage, if any.
No, their team just is not that good this year, which is really surprising to say.
Yeah, kind of odd. After that, the Steelers play on Christmas Day again at Houston. This game would have been the Deshaun Watson Watt Bowl, but the J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson are both hurt, so now we're looking at Tom Savage, maybe TJ Yates. Tough game on the road on Christmas Day, but I think the Steelers are still going to win because of their quarterback.
Oh, yeah. It's honestly shouldn't be a question. Deshaun Watson was leading that team. He was really carrying it. It's over for the Texans for this year. They're not making the playoffs.
And wrapping it up, maybe a meaningless game against the Browns. We saw them in week 1. They looked okay. That's probably the best they've looked all season. The Browns are not good at all. The Steelers should win this game. Maybe it won't matter. Maybe they'll play their backups. Who knows? But I think there's a legit chance the Steelers run the table here. Maybe lose 1 or 2 games. But I think going 11-5 would be disappointing. Let's put it that way.
Yep, I totally agree. It should be 12-4. My guess is going to be 11-5 because knowing the Steelers are going to blow a stupid game somewhere.
You know, I'd even say they should be 13-3 then. They should only lose 1 game.
And that's really going to only be to who do you think is that one game? Is it the Ravens, the Patriots?
I don't know.
Besides those,
I don't know because I'm feeling good about that Patriots game. We'll see because it's a long ways away. I'll just say, I'll actually just say it's the Bengals game.
It's an odd one.
Yeah, it is. What about you?
If I had to guess, to just blow 1, it's going to be the Titans. I think they're going to lose to the Titans.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Can I change my answer?
Sure.
I'll go with the Texans on Christmas Day.
Okay, that's fair.
It's a holiday. It's in Houston. It's a long trip. Maybe that'll be tougher.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, before I was kind of taking a shot in the dark. Is there anything else to talk about with the Steelers' second half? I guess maybe just one question. Can Juju Smith-Schuster continue the way he ended the first half?
Well, there's a good chance he will this week at least because the Colts are awful, as we said. So I hope so. I'm not sure, but I sure hope so. What do you think?
I think there's he can only go up from here pretty much. So I think for sure, yeah. We'll look at the rest of the NFL. Just a few quick things before we wrap things up. A much shorter episode than our last one. NFL MVP. A couple weeks ago, this might have been tougher, but I think there's a clear-cut front runner here now.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be Carson Wentz, right? Kareem Hunt and Alex Smith have taken a downturn after dropping 3 of their last 4 games. While that's not completely their fault, winning, I think, affects MVP race quite it really does. And then there's someone else... And then there is someone else doing better than Smith and Hunt, and that is Wentz. Wentz has been utterly fantastic for the Eagles, most recently throwing for 4 touchdowns and no interceptions against the Broncos defense. I think he's got to be the favorite to win this year. He's really playing really amazing football. Who do you think it is?
He's definitely the favorite. He's been amazing this year. Even without a premier back, if you will, they just got an upgrade. Wentz has been the biggest reason for the Eagles winning as much as they have so far. 2 weeks ago, I would have said Smith or Hunt, but they've fallen off. But I think a dark horse candidate is Jared Goff. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I think that's decent. I mean, the only reason I would argue no is because he hasn't been putting up crazy numbers. I would say he's a good argument for comeback player of the year. I don't know about MVP. I feel like
Wentz is definitely...
He's playing really, really good this year. But that's compared to his last year, which makes him good for comeback. I wouldn't say he's playing like the best in the league.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry I tried interrupting you there. That's on me. But as far as Goff goes, you're absolutely right. But I think he just deserves a little consideration. Wentz is much more valuable to the Eagles than Goff is to the Rams because of the way the teams play. But just listen to his stats right now. Last year, Goff played in 7 games. Compared to this year, he's played in 8. This year, he has 8 more touchdowns as of right now, 3 less interceptions, 6% percentage points higher in completion percentage, and nearly 1,000 yards more. So he probably won't win, but he has been very good, and I just wanted to recognize that.
Yeah, honestly, that's better than I thought, I will say.
All right. Moving on, Coach of the Year. Who is the NFL's Coach of the Year?
I think it's got to be McVay. I think Peterson puts up a good argument, but no one thought the Rams were going to be good. Yeah, that's an exaggeration, but still. Goff has shown that he can play like a guy drafted first overall now, and he's gotten help from a bounce-back season from Todd Gurley and a rejuvenated defense. But what's most impressive is that McVay has taken his team from last in points scored per game all the way to first. That's incredible. So McVay at the moment is my favorite for Coach of the Year. Who is your favorite for Coach of the Year?
Just to clarify, Austin is referring to Sean McVay of the LA Rams and Doug Peterson of the Philadelphia Eagles. I had an easy choice. It was Marvin Lewis. Oh, but for real. This isn't going to be very popular, but I'll give it to Todd Bowles. And he's not going to win it, but a lot of people, including myself, had the Jets going right around 0-16 this year. And here they are at 4-5 in the thick of the AFC playoff race. I never expected that. Certainly not after shipping off Sheldon Richardson. And this isn't a talented team, especially considering their quarterback is Josh McCown. They've been tough and gritty, and Bowles deserves credit for that. As far as the Offensive Player of the Year goes, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. We're both going with Kareem Hunt, right?
Yeah, I think Kareem Hunt is now the favorite with Deshaun Watson. I'm sorry, Offensive Player of the Year. That is my bad. In my head, that is Offensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah, Offensive Player of the Year is Kareem Hunt. He was in MVP talks for a little bit, so I'm thinking if the season ended right now, he would take it because he's averaging 5.2 yards a carry, 10.3 yards a catch, has 1,131 scrimmage yards and 6 touchdowns. So that sounds pretty Offensive Player of the Year like to me. Just to mention, though, Bell is in the running for this. A bunch of the ESPN people, their analysts, they actually did the same thing we did. And for Offensive Player of the Year, at least 4 of them had Bell. So that's a lot. And Bell was picked more than Kareem Hunt, which surprised me because I was reading through it. So just to keep in mind, people are considering Bell for this. I think that's kind of cool.
Good to know.
Yeah. So did you have anything else to add about Hunt? I know you already said.
You covered it.
All right. So moving on to Defensive Player of the Year, who do you got?
I gave it to Calais Campbell just because I remember watching him and I've been keeping a close eye on him. He has been fantastic, but I have a feeling you'll have someone different in mind, and I think it's going to be warranted.
Yeah, I have DeMarcus Lawrence of the Dallas Cowboys. I love both of them. I just want to say that, like I said about Brissett, because he's on my fantasy team, I had an extra love for them. But I do IDP. I've said it once before, but so I have both of these guys. They're the number 1 and number 2 defensive linemen in fantasy right now. So I love them both. I had to give it to DeMarcus Lawrence just for one reason. I'll get that in a second. But DeMarcus Lawrence has 31 total tackles, 10.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. And this came out of nowhere. DeMarcus Lawrence was nowhere near this good in any of his 3 other seasons. But to be fair to Campbell, he is on his tail. And Calais Campbell actually has more sacks at 11 and more tackles at 34. But what keeps Lawrence above is his 3 forced fumbles and 2 recoveries compared to Campbell's 2 forced fumbles and no recoveries, respectively. I think turnovers win games. So it was really, while Campbell had the edge in sacks and tackles, I think those turnovers are big for Lawrence. So I think he's my favorite at the moment. But for Offensive Rookie of the Year, who do you got?
I'm going to give you both my Rookies of the Year. Okay. Kareem Hunt is the Offensive Rookie of the Year pretty much by default at this point, but his last 4 games he's slowed down. 191 total rushing yards, and he hasn't had a touchdown since week 3. Just something to think about. As far as other players, I don't know who else could win it. Juju Smith-Schuster got pretty popular, but I don't think he's going to win it. But it's just interesting to note that he has been slowing down, so he might not be running away with it like he was. As far as defense goes, I think it's pretty unanimous for you as well. Marshawn Lattimore, he turned into like almost Darrelle Revis in his prime overnight, which I'm not saying he is, but he's turned into almost an elite cover corner, shutdown cornerback kind of guy, and we'll see if he can keep it up, but no one's been as dominant as him, even though I wanted to give an honorable mention to Tre'Davious White, who, as Austin has already mentioned several times, I love that guy coming out of the draft.
You want to know something surprising about the analyst picks for Defensive Rookie of the Year?
What is it?
Only one person, two people picked Lattimore, and that really surprised me. I honestly thought Lattimore was the easy favorite.
Who'd they pick?
What?
Who'd they pick?
Surprisingly, TJ Watt.
That's his name. I mean,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he's played really well, but no.
One's a homer. Ike Taylor picked Steelers for every single one of these.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
But that's really the only homer. Even he didn't pick this one. But Dave Damashek was.
He's a homer. He's a homer. He's a Steelers fan.
Yeah, but he didn't. He's not in this. I thought he was, but yeah. Judy Batista, Jeffrey Chadiha, and then Ike Taylor, and two picked Tre'Davious White as well, and Reggie Wayne picked Watt, and then it's just I don't know. I thought TJ was good. I didn't think he was that good, so that really surprised me. Then the rest are for Adams, really. Jamal Adams of the New York Jets.
Yeah, he's played well.
Yes, but sorry, to get back onto the topic, my offensive rookie of the year is also Kareem Hunt. It would have been Watson, but with Watson now out for the year, this should be Hunt's to lose. And I agree with Lattimore. I thought he was clear cut. I mean, Jamal Adams might have been on him a little bit, and Tre'Davious White, but I think Marshawn Lattimore has been shut down. It's been amazing what he's been doing. So easily Marshawn Lattimore for me. Who's your comeback player of the year?
I'm sorry. I just got internet back, and I don't know why. I just went to a website, and I wasn't told you don't. Oh, never mind.
A for effort. You tried.
My comeback player of the year was Jared Goff. I mentioned it earlier, but people were already starting to call him a bust this year, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it. But this is why you don't call someone a bust after 1 year. He's turned his career around, and in no small part due to the coaching change in LA, because Jeff Fisher was just a black hole. But he's played very well this year. I've already talked about him. Who's your comeback player of the year?
Mine's Earl Thomas. I may not like the Seahawks, but I do like Earl Thomas. If you watch the Seahawks game, you can see he's doing amazing things. Obviously not the one this week because he wasn't playing, but he came back from a nasty injury, so I think he wins it. He's been playing amazing as a safety. But moving on to offensive line of the year, who wins it?
This is tough. I know you have a team in mind. I actually came really close to picking that team, but I gave it to the Jaguars because they're near the top of the league in yards per rush and sacks, and they have one of the league's best rushing attacks. And this is while knowing that they have to run the ball to win the game. So I think they've done very well this year. Who's your offensive line of the year?
I guess I'm not going with a surprise pick. I thought it was a surprise pick, but I'm going with the Saints. Mark Ingram and Kamara are averaging 4.3 yards a carry behind their line, which is tied for 7th in the league. They allowed the fewest sacks at 8 and are tied with the Steelers for the second least amount of quarterback hits. So they're doing fantastic as a line, and it's not really one I expected coming into the year. I knew the Saints had a decent offensive line, but not that good. So I think the Saints win it here. Finally, to wrap it up for our awards, I tried to copy the NFL's awards that they give out at NFL Honors. I did skip a few, like FedEx Air and Ground and Castrol Edge. But so this is the last one that we're going to do is the Fantasy Player of the Year. Who do you got?
I have Todd Gurley. I haven't been able to pay as much attention to fantasy football this year as I typically do. But I checked in one of my leagues. He has earned the highest average points per matchup this year, and that definitely earns Player of the Year in my mind. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Todd Gurley. You covered it pretty well. He's the best player in fantasy this year, which is almost surprising because that he's bounced back so well. So good for him.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, the 1 year I don't have him, the 1 year I had him, he was not good. But I digress. So, Austin, is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up the second half preview for the Steelers?
Hey, guess what?
What?
We have a giveaway, and everyone should enter it. For a Funko Pop, it's free. Go to gleam.io, look up Stronger Than Steel Funko Pop giveaway. And also, it's on our Twitter. It's our pinned tweet. It's on our other social medias. If you look on there, go enter. It's free. You could win a Ben Roethlisberger Funko Pop. It's awesome.
Yeah, why not? It's free, right?
There you go.
All right. Austin, thank you again for joining me today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions about the show, email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our social media platforms. We are on Instagram at @stronger_steel_NFL, Twitter at @stronger_steel, Facebook at Stronger Than Steel Podcast. We're on SoundCloud and YouTube under the same name. Check out our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com, where we have that giveaway, obviously. Austin, it's been a long break, but I'm glad we've been back to talk football the last few days. And we've got another episode coming up real quick. Steelers-Colts coming at you.
Yeah, boy.
All right. Steelers football is back, and it's right around the corner. Steelers looking for first place in the AFC to secure the first round bye and home field advantage. Austin, thank you again for joining me. Steeler Nation, you have a fantastic night.
Good night.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel Podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.